All right, folks, you may have heard of this guy, Roy Moore, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you should check out my piece about Roy Moore in Huffington Post. It's a good one.
So Roy Moore is your news by the number. The number we're talking about is for blockbuster, bombshell story coming out this week from Washington Post, alleging that Alabama GOP Senate candidate Roy Moore is pursuing relationships, or previously pursued relationships, with at least 4 teenage girls while in his 30s. One of the women in this exclusive report said Moore initiated sexual contact with her when she was only 14 years old. Now, the significance of this story comes at an era where Donald Trump has basically said that he could go, you know, into the center of Times Square and shoot someone and people would still vote for him. Fifth Avenue. Let's get the geography right on that. So now this is another litmus test. After we had our elections in Virginia, where we got to dip the thermometer in and check the temperature of the country, and you know, it was a little cooler, it was a little more blue than last time. Yeah, this is going to be another one of those, right?
I think we're entering into this new era of politics, and I think we're entering this new, like, the new era. It's
like post-facts.
Like, I hate to say, not even post-facts, but like the institutions that we've come to know, and I don't know if hiding is not the right word I'm looking for, but the institutions that we once come to know and respect, that engaged in levels of misogyny and engaged in levels of sexism and homophobia, now it's all starting to come out. I think it started last year as a slow drip, 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 drip. Now this is like Niagara Falls.
Oh, yeah.
And more women are coming out and telling their stories, and I think this is awesome. I think this is empowering. And the silver lining in the cloud for me is this, and I will say this for everybody. I don't care if it's a Democrat or a Republican. I don't care. Party removed, doesn't matter, right? I think these are allegations, and we have to see if these allegations are true or not true. This is the first story, and I'm pretty sure, my hope is that the Washington Post did their best when it comes to sourcing these.
I mean, 4 separate teenagers?
Well, no, I mean, usually 90% of the time where there is a pattern, where you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 story, 5 women say this happened to me, then likely this person is predatory. If you hear one lone story in the Wolf, you hear one lone story and you're like, okay, just one story.
I mean, I don't know. I think that if the Washington Post talked to 4 totally non-coordinated, independent women, that's like pretty good.
I agree with you. I'm just saying that these are allegations, and we have to I mean, I think Roy Moore is innocent until proven guilty.
But what do you do with that, right? Like, Roy Moore is never going to be held trial for this. So do you just ignore it and say, go on and do what you do?
Listen, I actually do believe that this is now something where the jury in this particular case is going to be the voters of Alabama. The voters of Alabama, based upon this evidence, need to figure out how they plan on voting. Are they going to vote? And if they vote for Roy Moore, then they're saying that they don't believe these women.
Or they don't care,
they don't care.
Just as likely.
Or they're saying, we believe these women, we believe their stories, and we're voting against him. Yeah. And the ex-Alabama judge has called the Post story a political hit job and fake news while running to conservative media outlets like Breitbart in an attempt to get ahead of the story, while many Republicans in Washington are distancing themselves from Moore and calling for him to withdraw from the Senate race. Others are running to his defense. Now, the interesting thing about this for me is, why was this the moment? So, I'm not going to change my argument on what I said earlier, but why is this the moment that Republicans are distancing themselves from Roy Moore? This is the same man who said that homosexuals should get the death penalty. This is the same man who said, I think he was our political maniac last week, where he said that early childhood education was, he compared it to Nazism. Yeah. Like, this is a guy at a rally who randomly put a pistol out of his pocket. There's a lot of reasons why the Republican Party should run away from this guy as a candidate. Why did it take him being a pedophile for them now, or him to be an alleged pedophile, for them now to say, oh, nope, that's the straw that broke the camel's back.
I mean, that's an interesting one, right? And it's kind of like the battle for the core of the Republican Party right now. Like the people that you've heard from the Republican core that have come out and said, like, this guy, if these allegations are true, he needs to drop out, is like your John McCain's, right? People like that, people that are, you know, the center, the core of the Republican Party as we knew it for the last couple of decades. But now you've got this battle going on where, you know, we are just a few years away from a Republican Party where they're totally fine with running a pedophile as a candidate, right? As long as, you know, he's pro-gun and anti-gay and anti-black people, you know, you can do whatever you want. It's okay. And that's going to continue to be a thing. Like, this isn't going away.
But that is, I mean, I think that is sort of part of the... that's the eeriness of this. And I think what makes this even worse is it appears that the Republican Senate candidate, Mr. Roy Moore, is wasting no time in using these bombshell allegations to advance his campaign.
Right.
He's already sent out fundraising emails claiming the reports as part of a smear campaign launched by the Obama Clinton machines liberal media lapdog.
Oh my God.
I mean, it's...
like, since when is, like, being anti-pedophile a liberal media thing?
Listen, we're 30 days out from this election, folks, and this guy continues on this path.
I mean, this is crazy, right? Like, 30 days out, I mean, they're logistically, like, you can't even drop out, right?
No, he could functionally drop out.
But that's just an L,
and
right?
allow the Republicans to write in Luther Rice or the guy who...
You never get there, right? I mean, I'll be interested to see. I don't know what the polling numbers looked like in Alabama prior to this. Was he ahead?
Well, no, he's been ahead, but it's been very close between him and the Democrat, Doug, and... his last name is literally at the tip of my tongue and I can't remember it. But the Democrats actually have a chance to win this seat because...
Which when was the last time this was...
Luther Strange is the Republican who lost, who Donald Trump endorsed. Steve Bannon and Breitbart and the far alt-right and the extreme, the people who want a civil war on the establishment, they have endorsed Roy Moore. The White House, Mitch McConnell's other endorsed Luther Strange. Luther Strange lost his election.
Right.
Roy Moore is a nominee against Doug, and his last name is escaping me.
Doug something.
And, you know, now we'll have to see what happens as this race continues. Will Roy Moore win? This could tip the balance of the Senate. This gives this. If Democrats pick this seat up, that means Democrats now have a little bit more control. The Republicans are down a vote, and down a vote in a place like Alabama. Like, that's a big deal.
That's the place where...
down a vote in Pennsylvania is like, whatever. But down a vote in Alabama, like, that's a big deal.
That's scary.
That's a big deal. I mean, and mind you, a lot of the conservative heroes in the party right now have already went on a campaign for this guy.
Sure.
And, like, they've, you know, pushed for him very hard. And now the story has come out. And, I mean, the thing that bothers me about, like, to sort of go where we started this conversation, is that he really hasn't given, at least not to me, and I've read part of the Breitbart story, he continues to blame on the sort of like this media machine, but he really hasn't addressed the actual allegations.
Well, of course not. He's not going to. He's just going to hope they disappear.
I mean, they're not going to disappear.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and I think it's very important. Let me say, and I'll say this, like, the reason why, like, you have accusers, and... you know, and these are just allegations at this point. But I think it's very important for the accused to say, if you are indeed innocent, here's why I'm innocent. Here is the evidence. Here's what happened that night. Or here's what happened during the course of these 4 relationships. One, he could say a lot of things. They lied to me about their age. He could say tons of things to give reasonable, possible alibis or something or as to why this happened. But the fact is, like, oh, it's just liberal bias. That bothers me. It really does. It bothers me. As somebody who was falsely accused, it bothers me. I mean, if you're falsely accused, you need to tell the people why you were indeed falsely accused and not blame it on some media machine. Say, I was falsely accused, and here is the rationale for that false allegation. This is why this person is wrong. It didn't happen that way. Period.